Where's the woman from Led Zeppelin's infamous Mudshark incident? Here's my million-dollar question. Who was this young, attractive red-headed woman? Where did she go? Is she still around? Where is this 8mm film of the entire incident? Hang with me till the end of this video to get the whole story. The story goes while staying at Seattle's Edgewater Inn in July 1969, after playing at the Seattle Pop Festival with Vanilla Fudge, the members of Led Zeppelin and Vanilla Fudge and their entourages are alleged to have done, let's say, nasty things to a willing groupie with a fish caught from the local bay. The story first came out in public on Frank Zappa's live album, Fillmore East, June 1971, which contained a little story about it called The Mudshark. It was from Vanilla Fudge's account of the tale, recounted to the mothers when the two bands bumped into each other in a Chicago airport just after the festival. Let's say you were a traveling rock and roll band called the Vanilla Fudge. Let's say one night you checked into the Edgewater Inn with an 8mm movie camera, a succulent young lady with a taste for the bizarre. The song then goes into a chorus about the Mudshark, calling it a new dance craze set to sweep the nation. The story became more infamous in the mid-'80s with the publication of Stephen Davis's unauthorized Zeppelin biography, Hammer of the Gods. The book says the band's road manager, Richard Cole and John Bonham, caught a number of fish from the window of their hotel room in the Edgewater Hotel, which is directly over Elliott Bay. Davis describes how a pretty young groupie with red hair, clothes were taken off and then tied to a bed. They then proceeded to stuff pieces of shark into her vagina and rectum. Should we ask why? There is where the word sick came into play. It is said that Vanilla Fudge singer Mark Stein filmed the entire thing on a Super 8 camera. Cole says the groupie loved it, and it was nothing malicious or harmful, no way. She might have been hit by a shark a few times for disobeying orders, but she didn't get hurt. Doesn't really seem to make it any less disturbing in my mind. Cole retold the story once more in his own book, 2002's Stairway to Heaven. Led Zeppelin Uncensored reads, word about the escapade spread quickly. Rumors circulated that the girl had been raped, that she had been crying hysterically, that she had pleaded for me to stop, that she had struggled to escape, that a shark had been used to penetrate her. None of the stories were true. It's said that Cole, let's just say, handles the truth very recklessly to get a good, interesting story. Robert Palmer said about the Hammer of the Gods to Enemy in 1985 that Cole's recollection of many events were permanently distorted one way or another. After years of booze and drugs, he got paid a lot of money for talking crap. Similarly, much of Cole's autobiography was called a basically nonsense by Jimmy Page and John Hall Jones. Carmine Appice's account is probably much more accurate. First of all, a lot of people thought it didn't happen, that it was just an apocryphal thing, says Ian Gittins, Appice's co-author on Stick It. Carmine gave it a complete chapter. He was sitting there on the side of the bed while it was happening, and he wanted to share it. Carmine was never a big on drugs or a big drinker, so his memory is still okay. While Richard Cole, who by his own admission was off his head most of the time, doesn't have clear memory and he's prone to exaggeration. Sadly, or sickly if that describes it better, Appice says he'd hooked up with her a day earlier. She'd performed oral sex on him in his limo. The following afternoon she called John Paul Jones's room at the Edgewater, where Jones, Appice, Vanilla Fudge bassist Tim Bogert, plus Plant and wife Maureen, were hanging out. Appice had previously told her that Mark Stein had camera gear, prompting her to rush in and declare, "I want to make a movie with you guys." She was, noted the drummer, very high. The gathering was swiftly gate-crashed by the boisterous party from next door, namely Cole, Stein, Zepp roadie Clive Carlson and Fudge road manager, Bruce Wayne. Before too long the groupie lay naked on the bed, bucking and screaming with pleasure, as Cole started whipping her with the Mudshark. All the while, Stein's camera was rolling. The original group decided to leave when Cole and Wayne shoved the thrashing animal inside her. We had the door open and there were so many people in the room when it was happening, but she didn't care, Appice tells Classic Rock. She got so into it, and it was so shocking to us, that we all started hysterically laughing. Sometimes that happens when you're confronted with such a freaky scene. Richard and Bruce were doing their thing, with Mark trying to film it, but the rest of us filtered out into the hallway, laughing our asses off. Appice, looking back, points out that, "You have to understand that those days were so different. It was all peace and love and women walking around with no bras and see-through blouses. It was a really crazy time. Birth control pills were just coming out, and, politically and socially, everything was different." The film. "It's long gone," confirms Appice. A friend of mine, latter-day Cactus bassist Randy Pratt, bought the film, or was told that it was the film and there was nothing there, it was too old, he couldn't develop it, or do anything with it. The infamous woman? "I started doing these weekly radio shows in the States a few years ago," Appice explains. "One time we were talking about Fairbanks, Alaska, and this person called up claiming to be the woman. She actually spoke to my friend, the DJ on the morning show. Let's face it, you've got to be either the woman or out of your mind to make that claim, but she said she had moved to Alaska, raised a family, and lived happily ever after." As Appice writes in his book, "I wish her well. Believe it or not, she was a nice girl.